Welcome to BROADish. I am Felicia Madison, along with co-host Jocelyn Chia, and soon to be here, Hollie Harper, who got lost. And joining us today as our guest co-host is Amma Marfo. Welcome to
Thank you for having me.
Let's move on to our first topic of today, COVID lotteries. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of bummed they're having lotteries for these vaccines because I would have waited.
I know, seriously.
I think we're just in the misfortune of being in states that we're going to have people comply no matter what. We need to live tougher places. Some of it, I guess, is on us.
I know, it's not fair. I'd love to have a chance of winning $1 million to get the vaccine.
Yeah, we're being punished for being rational, responsible people.
Well, if the giveaway is good, because West Virginia just announced the lottery and they're giving away guns, which I'd actually rather not participate in. So the incentive really depends on if that is attractive to you. $1 million, absolutely. I am too small of a person to own a gun. It's just not a good idea for like 12 reasons.
What's the rationale? Get the vaccine so you won't die and then you could kill someone else?
It's like get protected and then get really protected.
Hopefully it's for your protection, not for your murdering of someone else.
Yeah, I don't think they're protecting themselves with that gun. I think they're just going to be...
There are some states where if you got vaccinated before they announced it, you're already entered. Like I think that was the case for at least somewhere in LA, like maybe LA County was like, if you got it, you're already entered, and if you get it, you can be entered.
That's nice.
Okay. I know I don't win things either. I never win contests. This just doesn't happen for me. So
me and you, I'm not lucky.
Oh no, Felicia, you won the marriage lottery. Come on.
That counts for something. She said you won the marriage lottery, which, as a single person, that is not an easy thing to do. So.
I know. It wasn't necessarily a lottery. It was a lot of hard work.
A lot of blowjobs, huh?
No. But yeah, I don't know. I just think I think it's crazy that we have to incentivize people to get this. It is
pretty crazy.
It seems crazy that we could incentivize financially or with awarding guns, but we can't make it mandatory.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because making it mandatory they're all kind of constitutional challenges, but an incentive is totally acceptable.
Well, I just think it's really funny. We live in a place where, you can't go to school unless you have certain vaccinations. But like now all of a sudden everybody's about their rights. And it's like, oh yeah, where was that with measles?
Well, and that was the thing, like Dr. Drew got flamed on Twitter for being like, oh, well, what if you had to have vaccines to travel? And then regular people without medical degrees were like, you do have to have vaccines to travel. How do you not know that?
Yeah.
Like it was a wild, I don't know what his medical degree is in or where he got it from, but it is proving increasingly irrelevant. I wonder
if it has to do with the newness and unfamiliarity of this vaccine. Like maybe the vaccine has been documented safe for many, many years. Then there's a lower bar to making it mandatory. And maybe when something's this new and experimental, that's why they are being more lenient with making it mandatory.
Well, that doesn't make me feel good.
No.
You mean I'm a guinea pig? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
We're all guinea pigs, girl.
Basically.
Well, I have to say that our club is opening, Westside Comedy Club.
Yay!
And we could be we could be at 100% capacity if everyone's vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I've actually had people call me and email me saying, "Well, I'm not vaccinated. Can I still come?"
What about?
Why would I even ask you?
100%. Do you not understand if you are vaccinated?
Oh, so I'll give an example. I was working outside the library yesterday in town because it was really nice out and I just didn't want to be in these walls anymore. And I was posted up on a bench outside the front door of the library. Now, the back door is the only way that it's open if you're going to pick things up. The library itself is not open. There are multiple signs on the door that say, you cannot enter through this door. This door is locked. Rear door. With a sign opening it. And it just became this fascinating social experiment of how many people just walked up, saw those signs, and then tried to open the door anyway. Like, surely this doesn't apply to me. And I think that's what the phone calls are. Someone's just like, I know you're saying everybody, but like, am I a part of everybody? Yes. Everybody is part of everybody.
Yeah, everybody's everybody. This is why I feel like people don't even read the push and pull on the door. They don't even see push or pull. It's right there, push, pull. And they're like, ugh.
The show High on the Hog, I watched it. There were like 4 episodes. I found it very fascinating and very mouth-watering. I think I gained 5 pounds just watching the show. But it was really interesting. And I learned a lot, and also gave me a real huge desire to start cooking.
One thing that they raised that was interesting is, why isn't African cuisine more popular around the world, like French cuisine or Italian cuisine? It's just as delicious.
Well, because of how Africa has been so colonized. I mean, it's kind of hard to spread your cuisine when you're getting colonized. Like, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to do that. You know what I mean?
If someone's coming in saying you're eating this now instead, then like the idea of what was there before by default kind of becomes less valuable. So it's kind of been okay to bring it back in through other places. So like it influenced the French. So we were like, oh, if the French will eat it, then we'll eat it. Or it influenced some parts of British. And if they'll eat it, then we'll eat it. But it was never in its own right kind of value.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're only like 30 years off of like, you remember USA for Africa and like Live Aid? People were like, they got food, people don't even know. Like, think about it. People don't even know that Africa is a continent, not a country. There's a lot of people who don't even know that. So like, to be honest with you, I'm surprised at how not only like Africa, but other continents or other, places with melanated people have survived. And that's just through pure strength. But I mean, I never had any kind of not African American. I never had any African food until I was in college.
Wow.
And, and I had Ethiopian food. And I remember that was a real, like, whoa, I had to completely rethink how I even eat the food. Do you know what I mean? Like with the bread. And so I think it's such a learning curve that a lot of people just have to get over.
Yeah, my parents are African, so we grew up with it. So it was never really weird to me. And then like whenever we had friends come over, my parents would make it. Like there's always that thing as a kid where you're like, it's not like what everybody else eats. This is embarrassing. But they always really liked it. So it's just one of those things where there's nothing inherently wrong with it. We've just socialized it as being less than everything else. And now we're finally now at a place where it can kind of come back around.
Yeah. We also have our first Michelin star African restaurant. I mean, maybe there is one already. I don't know.
Not that I know of, but
I don't know. All I know is I just think when I was watching High on the Hog, I've been watching it all week with with my family, and I love like showing it to the kids. But like, who knew that oysters were so black?
Right.
Like really? Who did that? It was funny with mac and cheese. I was like, I knew it was black. I knew it was black. We love mac and cheese way too much. I'm sorry. We love mac and cheese way too much. But like oysters, and now I hear that like Mother Shuckers.
Mother Shuckers, yeah.
That's like a few blocks from me. I'm like, oh my, yes. I'm like, wait a minute. I could have seen this man. So like the king of oysters, how he had that restaurant. Remember, he was the head chef at that restaurant down on Wall Street, and it was restaurant he was cooking, and it was like 1810. 1815. So the restaurant was all white. Meanwhile, remember down in the basement, he was getting runaway slaves and harboring them. So like, talk about, I mean, that's some amazing history. That's a movie. Yeah, that's a movie.
I would watch that in a second. Who's making it?
I don't know, but it just really made me think about, and I was telling Felicia this, it really made me think about, yes, African food on our culture, but it's made me think about American food and all the cultures coming through. Do you know what I mean? Like I went to the Museum for Chinese Food here in New York City. Where was it? It's Williamsburg. It's across the street from McCarran Park, and how the first Chinese restaurant in America was in 1840. And it was just really interesting to see like the history of these foods coming from all these people from around the world. And like, so what is American cuisine when you really think about it? American cuisine is like all the cuisine.
And so much of Chinese food here is not available in Asia. When I came here, I was like, what the fuck is General Tso's chicken? Who is this general? I never heard of him.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, Americans tend to do that, like California rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was like, is that really like a roll?
They don't have those in Tokyo.
Isn't that like everybody's first like sushi roll?
That or like the Philadelphia roll, which is basically just all the stuff you put on a bagel with rice.
And I don't think in Japan they put avocado and cream cheese on their sushi.
Yeah.
Yeah, we take every food and just like ruin it.
We do. But it's funny. It's like I was thinking about sushi. Like, you know, when you're pregnant, they say, don't eat sushi. And I was like, are Japanese women afraid to eat sushi when they're pregnant? You know what I mean? Like, I've always wondered, like, do these things, because, you know, now, you know, I'm 9 years out from having a baby, my last baby. And I'm always like, is the list just get longer for women of like things they can't do? Like, do you remember that, Felicia, the things they told you couldn't do?
Yeah, like
when you were pregnant?
Cheese.
They told you
pasteurized cheese, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think about it too, like when I've traveled, like living here and then like going back to Africa, my parents are there, so I go every now and again. And like when you go to get your vaccinations, they're like, oh, and you can't eat street food. And I was like, sorry, I'm gonna do that anyway. Like it's just this very sanitized way of like, well, it's not safe. And I'm like, no, it's safe. I don't know what you're thinking it is, but it's safe. And like you can kind of make your own decisions. And it's just very odd that like that never happens when we go other places. But like for some reason they're like, well, don't eat it if you don't know where it's prepared. I'm like,
what country are you from, Emma?
Ghana.
There were some interesting things that I learned. I learned that like cowboy was originally, the name was from Black men that were doing the cattle work.
Yeah, they were enslaved.
Boy, get the cattle.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's where cowboy came from. I didn't know that either. There was I found it interesting in Philadelphia that she didn't know her ancestry, and she was so surprised that her ancestors were so successful. I'm like, how do you not know that?
You mean the caterer, the catering family? Oh, that's another thing, that catering came from Black people.
Yeah,
I was like, what? But then that makes sense, because who was cooking for large amounts of people?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I have to admit, like my mother did our genealogy back in the 90s before all the internet. And she got to the 1750s, which is pretty far. And she still wasn't done. Like my family's been here a dumb long time. But you know, a lot of people, not even just Black folk, a lot of Americans, they past their great grandparents, they don't know.
right.
Like they really don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't even know past my grandparents.
Wow.
Really? But your parents would know. Your parents, do they? They
would
know.
probably know. Yeah, never asked them.
And that
Do you guys
Carolina,
have? I'm sorry.
Carolina rice is a result of Black people.
Yeah,
I did know that. Yeah.
What rice?
Carolina, like the yellow rice, right? Was it yellow rice?
Yeah. I didn't know that. There's so many things I learned from this, but yeah, I didn't know that. But
Holly, remember how you're talking about black mac and cheese versus white mac and cheese? So I had an experience when there was a Black girl who was sitting next to me at a dinner, and we were all ordering stuff, and she ordered, ooh, mac and cheese, and it came in a skillet. So we're all very excited. This mac and cheese came in a skillet. So it comes in, it's all sizzling hot, looking so amazing. She takes one scoop and she's like, ew, this is white people shit. And so it's like me and all the Americans just devouring her mac and cheese. She's like, I'm having none of this shit.
Yeah.
wow.
No such thing as bad mac and cheese.
I know, right? And
No, there is. There is bad mac and cheese.
Easy mac. Yeah.
Well, if you screw it up, then like everybody remembers it is a permanent stain. Like you don't get to make it for gatherings anymore. It is a whole thing.
And apparently there's like competitions, right? The last guy I dated, he's African American, and he's like barbecues and cookouts. All the women will bring their mac and cheese, and there'll be a competition to see who's got the better mac and cheese.
You know, you do. You get competitive with food, because like we have. I'm so bad. I don't even do Thanksgiving with my family. I haven't for like 10 years. We do it with our friends in the neighborhood, like a group of 10 families, and sometimes we'll have these competing dishes. And I'm like, what do you mean you brought greens? Or what do you mean? And so like through the night, I get very competitive. I'll like keep going up and looking to see how much of mine is gone versus theirs. Like I really do. I'm just like, well, I'll make excuses.
And people will say they were going to bring something else. And then like it's a surprise competition, because it's like, well, you said you were bringing, and then the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, something that I thought about that was said during the show was that sometimes they would put a face of a person on a product to show the level of quality of the product, that it was made by someone, and it was Black people, and it made me think of like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's brown rice, and thinking like maybe that's not bad. And I felt kind of bad that they took their faces off of it. Maybe it was a good thing. She was like the best cook, or he was the best rice maker. Why was it? I know why it was. I don't know if that was an exaggeration why they got took off, but it just made me think about that. Like it was such a shame to take them off.
Right, like it actually had a positive connotation.
Do you
Well, I was
agree?
glad they took them off. I was very glad they took them off because it's like it reinforces the idea that Black people are here to take care of you. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're here to provide. We're here to cook for you. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't seeing images of Black women in political power. We were seeing images of Black women like with a kerchief on, just cooking for you. You know? And so I was very happy because it was just like, when you really take a look at enslavement and the role that Black women, like, they were taking care of all masses' kids, but like, who was taking care of their kids?
Right.
So like, when I would see Aunt Jemima, it would always rub me the wrong way. Like, I didn't like it.
Well, and especially to know that,
That makes
like,
sense.
it's not based on a real person. It was a thing essentially to kind of like gain clout. So it's like this group of white people, will ultimately put kind of like the success of our image on the back of a Black person, which just aligns with too many other things in history for it to be okay. So even if it is like a reverent sort of thing, there's too much tied up in it overall for it to be like a net good. Like, are there Black people that high up in the company?
Right.
How are they advertising to like certain groups? So like, if it doesn't align with like, we revere you on all levels, like,
right.
no,
So it was
keep
just the one level that they were doing it at for economic gain as opposed to talking the talk, so to speak.
I do remember one thing that was funny though about Aunt Jemima, when like in the 90s they gave her a blowout. Remember that? They gave her like a blowout. They did. They gave her a blowout, and I was just like, okay, because they were like, and they really were like earnest about it. You know what I mean? They were like, we want to support, you know, a new image, so we're gonna do her hair. And I was just kind of like,
oh my God, that's gonna be the cover of this story.
Oh,
okay, that's gonna be.
Does
I
anyone
was like,
remember?
okay, so you gave her a blowout. You're like what?
Does anyone remember Mavis Beacon, like the typing software that like you use to learn typing?
Oh yeah.
So like the cover of that was a Black woman as well, and they gave her a blowout like between versions. So like I used one in elementary school, and then middle school I was like, who did this? Like, what did you do to Mavis? And it's like, and again, like that's a very weird thing because like maybe on food there's some history towards it, but to what end do you just put a random Black woman on typing software? Like, and then I saw Hidden Figures, I was like, okay, maybe, but like. It was very, very weird.
It is weird. It is weird.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is going to be breaking news. It's a story that Jocelyn is going to tell us something that happened to her last night. And although I know you might have to leave at the 1:30 mark, so feel free just to log off, and we'll
if I disappear, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun, and I hope to get to come back another day for the full hour uninterrupted.
Right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Jocelyn. Tell us what happened. We're dying to know.
Yes. Okay, so two things. One is more innocent than the other. So I'll just share, but both happened last night. So last night, a comedian told me that a guy had posted a Tinder profile picture of him and me. And I don't know this guy. All right. Like, that's
Well, girl, you
like,
were standing there. You stood there for a second.
I just stood there. I'm like, does he think I'm a celebrity and he's like using me to show off? Does he think I'm Ali Wong? Is he trying to show women that he has female friends? I have no idea why he put on his Tinder profile picture with me. So that was the first random thing that happened.
That's pretty funny. That's
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. So then the second thing happened was when I was hanging out at the Cellar, and this comedian was, so a little bit of backstory. I was hanging out at the Cellar, and then a couple of people came in and they're like, oh my God, y'all was so funny. Can we buy you drinks? So I thought they had come from the Cellar show, and then, but they were looking at me like, you were amazing. I was like, where? Then they had come from another club. So I was like, oh, you came from another show down the block. And so just so you get the background, because the comedians have a theory that this person that later bullied me is a comedian, got jealous that these people were giving me this attention, asking me for my Instagram, not his, right? Because they didn't see his freaking show. So this comedian, should I name his name?
Girl, name his name.
I don't know. It's up to you.
All right.
What's up to you?
It's Mehran something. I don't know. Mehran, whatever the last name is.
Call him Meerkat. He's Meerkat.
Meerkat Kajani or something like that. So he's seeing all this, and he starts asking questions like, how long's Jocelyn been doing comedy? He didn't even ask me, how long have you been doing comedy? Because I was there with Sherrod Small, Jackie Fabulous, and he's like, how long's Jocelyn been doing comedy? I'm like, I'm right in front of you. You can ask me, you know. So anyway, I answered. I was like 7 years. He goes, where do you go to college? I said, Indiana. Where do you go to grad school? I said, Georgetown. He goes, I knew it. You went to grad school. I was like, how did you know? Because you're a nerd. And I was like, what? I was like, all right, well, this guy's a little weird. And then he goes on to be like, you know what? I don't like it when overeducated people are in comedy. I was like, why? He goes, because you guys should be in charge of systems, and people who are systems people shouldn't be in entertainment and nightlife. I'm like, this guy is like not liking me already. He goes, I don't like you. Just like that. I don't like you. I was like, why? He goes, no reason. I don't have to justify myself for not liking you. I just like or don't. I don't have to justify myself. And then Sharad sounded like, why are you being such an ass? And he goes, I don't like her. Oh, no. In fact, he actually turned to Sharad and immediately tells Sharad, I don't like her. And Sharad's like, why are you being so inhospitable? And then Mehran is like, I don't like her.
Wait, he said inhospitable?
He probably didn't use the word inhospitable.
Okay, so I was like, wow, that's nice.
That's probably like my educated mind putting an inhospitable word. Okay, the word he actually used was BAN, bitch ass N-word.
Oh.
And I like cleaned it up for the show.
That's a real cleanup job. Like you took some Pine-Sol for that shit.
Really,
like, you really did. Right, like, wow, inhospitable means a BAN. All right.
He's a BAN.
Wow, that's funny.
That was Mr. Clean. You know, you just took the Clorox and really took that.
Right.
Well, you know what? First of all, that is really weird you say that, because I got into a debate recently with a man who his whole thing was, and this is more about Black culture. He was like, Black women are too overeducated. They're too overeducated.
For what?
I know, like, for what? And I was just like, do we make you feel dumb? Because to me, when you just say overeducated, all I'm looking at you is that you feel inferior. Like you feel inferior. And you know, I mean, to be honest with you, I know you're a comedian and I know you're funny. He really should be lucky, because you could have been busting on him the whole time. Like he was giving you ins to bust on him, but I think you were probably thinking he's kidding, right?
I thought he was kidding. I really did until he became like, I don't like you. And he sounded nasty about it, right? Oh, and the story doesn't end there. Oh. So now Sharad's like, what's your problem? Why are you being a BAN? And then Mehran was like, why are you bringing stray cats into the cellar? Like he called me a stray cat. And Shiraz like, she is a grown-ass comedian. She just did 2 shows down the block. You have people coming in, asking for her fucking Instagram, asking for her photo, asking to buy her drinks. Like, who are you to say like she's a stray cat, right? So he called me a stray cat. And then Shiraz was like, you know what? Move. Like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And then Mehran would not move. So Mehran was like, sitting next to Shiraz. Shiraz was like in the inner booth, and so Shiraz trying to get Mehran to move, and Mehran just like sat there like, and then Shiraz now trying to like push Mehran, and then finally Mehran pushed Shiraz, and then now Shiraz just lost it. Shiraz just like slammed himself on Mehran, and Mehran is now like on the floor of the cellar.
Girl, this is so good.
This is so I need some popcorn.
Popcorn.
And then the general manager of the cellar was like, children. And
he asked for that. He really asked for that. Like, what a freaking cornball.
Yeah.
Like, you are so corny. Wow. You got to him, because you know what? Men, when they see you as funny, they're like, all right, she's funny, but she's ugly. If they see you as she's pretty, yeah, she's pretty, but she's stupid. When you are pretty and you're funny, they can't deny you're pretty or you're funny, and they can't deny that you are smart. You know what I mean? So I think for some men, it's just too much for them to handle. Straight up.
Hopefully that was it. And then not that he has some like, I don't know. So Sharad's theory is 2 for 1. He probably got jealous that people were giving me attention. But 2, he's like, he was looking for a soft target. He would have never done that to a guy, and especially not a Black guy. He's like, it was 2 things. You're a woman. And he's like, he would have probably not done it to a Black woman, but he saw that you were Asian and you were a soft target. I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. People pick on who they think they can.
Yeah, exactly.
He probably thought that you were going to, you know, he was unleashing some little anti-Asian hate.
Yeah.
And he thought that you were going to take it, and he didn't realize that you had allies right there.
That's right.
You know what I think, Jocelyn? I think he really loves you.
He's gay, Felicia.
Is he?
Yeah, he's gay.
And
It's
that,
back-
and
back
that's
to-
even more disappointing, to be honest with you. That's even more disappointing
Because he was probably like the subject of hate himself, especially growing up in Iran.
But what's with the education thing? I'm sorry, there's something about the education thing that really gets to me, where I've been, because to me, I think he's an incel. He's an incel. He's an incel comic. And what's crazy is that, Felicia, you run an open mic. There's a lot of incel comics. There's a lot. And then I was this one open mic like year before the pandemic. And this girl got up. Okay, it was crazy. This girl, she was gorgeous. She looked like tall Swedish chick. She was a former model. She's only like 26, so her looks are all still there. She's banging, and I was like, all right, girl, you know what I mean? Like, dude, she got up, she started talking about how she was a model and people think she's stupid. And then her set was good.
Wow.
It wasn't an A+, but it wasn't a C. It was like a B+, A-. But she was better than all these guys. Wow. And these fat little fucks, these incels were so annoyed with her, and they're like, oh well, boo, 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 boo. And why are pretty girls doing comedy? And I was just like, you're only here because you can't get ass. That's the only reason you're here. So the dude saw you, he saw you're pretty, he saw you're good, he saw you have shine, and then he thought, yeah, I'm gonna smush her. She's just gonna be some little Asian girl, go away. And he fucked around and found out, basically.
Well, shout out to Sherrod for sticking up for you too,
yeah, shout out to Sherrod.
Because he was like, you're being misogynistic. He actually called him out for being misogynistic. He was like, you would have never said this to a male comedian. So I think it's so important in the Me Too movement. I think they were saying like, it can't just be women speaking out. Like, men have to stand up for women. Men have to put other men in place. And that's what Sherrod did. He put this guy in place.
That makes me feel good.
You just have to.
I owe him brunch now.
Jocelyn, you just have to hang out at nicer clubs.
That's right. It actually made me think maybe I don't want to get into the cellar.
No, I don't think so. No, well, that was. I'm sorry you had to go through that, and it's a tough world for women in comedy in general, and it's nice to know that we have support of some people at least.
We do have support of some people, and Sherrod would say it wasn't just he saw that happen to Rachel Feinstein when she was at the cellar. Male comics would like just shit on her because she was a woman. I was like, oh wow.
And she is hilarious.
And she's great. Exactly.
Holy crap. She's so good. I know some of her jokes word for word.
Wow.
Like, I know. Yeah. And I got the highest compliment from my daughter one night. She's 14. About a month ago, we were cuddling, which is rare. I got my teenage daughter to cuddle with me. I was like, wow. I didn't want to let go. I was like, this is never going to happen again. Because they totally reject you when they get friends. But I started watching Rachel Feinstein. I was like, can I mind? Because she's like, you watch the same people over and over again. And I was like, I do. And then she goes, Mama, you remind me of her. And she reminds me of you. And I was just like, really? Really? Because I love Rachel Feinstein, love her.
Yeah.
But I can see how these dudes would be mad at her because she's a cute girl and she's funny.
She's funny, exactly. And then Sherrod was like, he would have never done that to Sam J. Sam J was just the next tip. He would have never done it to Sam J. He would have never done it to Jackie Fabulous. But
Sam J would have cussed him out.
Oh my God, right?
She would have cussed him out.
Sam J.
I like to see him try that with Yamanika. Ooh.
Oh yeah, seriously. Right? Yamanika.
You might not want to. You
probably wouldn't have survived.
He wouldn't just be on the ground. He'd be underground.
Anyway, okay. Well, those were our 3 topics for the day. This was BROADish. I'm Felicia Madison.
I'm Jocelyn Chia.
I'm Hollie Harper.